All right, let's talk about one of the biggest myths when it comes to money, how people actually build lasting wealth. It's a story that's way less about glamour and luck and a whole lot more about the quiet, everyday power of self-discipline. I mean, we see this story everywhere, right? This idea that financial success is some kind of single explosive event. You win the lottery, your app goes viral, you pick that one perfect stock. And hey, it makes for a great story. But for almost everyone, it's just that, a story. The reality for pretty much everyone from Warren Buffett down to the self-made millionaire next door is built on something completely different. And that's really the heart of it. The real path to wealth isn't a Hollywood movie montage. It's quieter, it's slower, and yeah, sometimes it's a little bit boring. But you know what? It's also way more reliable and accessible than just waiting around for lightning to strike. And it all starts with a foundational skill, one that was famously put to the test with a simple marshmallow. So let's hop in a time machine and go back to the 1960s at Stanford University. Researchers there conducted what's now known as the marshmallow experiment, and it's become one of the most famous studies in psychology maybe ever. It was such a simple test, but it revealed something incredibly profound about a concept called delayed gratification. This right here, this is the core engine of self-discipline. It's that choice you make to say no to a small pleasure right now so that you can get a much bigger, better reward down the road. It's really the difference between impulse and intention. And it turns out it's a skill that has some pretty staggering implications for our entire lives. So picture this. You've got a 4-year-old kid sitting all alone in a room with a marshmallow on the table. The researcher leans in and says, "Hey, I'm going to leave for a little bit. If you can wait until I get back without eating this marshmallow, you'll get a second one." And then they just leave the kid alone with that delicious, fluffy temptation. Some kids, they caved right away, but others, they somehow managed to hold out for the full 15 minutes. The question is, why? To really get what's going on, we have to look inside the brain. Because it turns out this isn't just about some vague idea of willpower. Nope, it's a biological tug-of-war that's happening between two totally different competing systems in our heads. So what was actually happening inside the minds of those kids who successfully waited? Well, they weren't just better kids. Their brains were literally operating differently in that crucial moment. They were winning an internal battle that, let's be honest, we all face every single day. Okay, so check this out. It's like you have two different characters in your brain. On one side, you've got the hot system. This is your emotional, impulsive side, run by a part of the brain called the ventral striatum. It just screams, "I want it now." But on the other side, you have the cool system. This is your rational, forward-thinking CEO, governed by the prefrontal cortex. It's the part that says, it's probably better to wait. The ability to delay gratification really is just a measure of how well your cool system can calm down and manage your hot system. And get this isn't just some neat theory. It's something you can literally see. When researchers put the original marshmallow test participants into fMRI brain scanners 40 years later, they saw this exact pattern play out. The low delayers, the ones who ate the marshmallow right away, their ventral striatum lit up like a Christmas tree when they were faced with temptation. But the high delayers, they showed way more activity in their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain in charge of control. Okay, but this is where the story gets truly incredible. The researchers didn't just stop with the experiment. No, they followed these kids for the next 4 decades of their lives. And what they found was this stunning connection between that one little choice they made at age 4 and how successful they were as adults. And we're not talking about a small effect here. The ability to wait for that second marshmallow was a powerful predictor of a whole bunch of positive life outcomes. It suggests that this core skill of self-regulation is like a fundamental building block for a successful life. The results were honestly staggering. The kids who waited for the second marshmallow ended up with higher SAT scores, people saw them as more socially competent, and they could handle stress better. As adults, they were physically healthier and far less likely to struggle with addiction. Just think about that for a second. Every minute a preschooler managed to wait translated into a real, measurable, positive impact decades down the line. So, that brings us to the big question, right? Is this something you can learn, or you're just stuck with what you've got? Well, the answer is a resounding yes. Self-discipline isn't some fixed trait you're born with. It's a muscle you can train, an engine you can build. So let's look at exactly how to do that. And we'll start with some pretty ancient wisdom. This isn't a new idea. The Stoic philosophers were talking about this thousands of years ago. The Roman emperor Marcus Aurelius saw discipline not as some kind of punishment, but as just fulfilling his nature as a human. He totally reframed the chore of getting out of bed as the very purpose he was born for. And that mindset shift is really step one, seeing discipline as an act of self-love, not self-denial. Now, for some practical tools, we can turn to James Clear's framework in Atomic Habits. First, shift your identity. You're not just trying to save money, you are a saver. Every choice you make backs up that new identity. Second, focus on your systems, not just your goals. The goal is the finish line, sure, but the system is the road you're on every single day. Third, try habit stacking. You link a new habit you want to build, say checking your budget, to an old one you already do without thinking, like making your morning coffee. And finally, start ridiculously small. The whole point is to build momentum through consistency, not by trying to be perfect overnight. Now let's apply this directly to our money with 3 simple, powerful pillars. First up, mindset. Practice delaying gratification with a 24-hour rule. You see something you want, just wait a day before you buy it. You'd be amazed how often that urgent need just disappears. Second, systems. You gotta pay yourself first. Before you pay a single bill, automate 10 to 20% of your income to go straight into your savings and investments. Make it non-negotiable. And third, avoidance. You have to treat high-interest debt, especially from credit cards, like the absolute wealth-killing plague that it is. So after all of this, the psychology, the neuroscience, the practical tips, we finally arrive at the central and kind of counterintuitive truth about how you actually build wealth. I absolutely love this analogy. For years, you might be saving and investing and paying down debt, and it feels like nothing's happening. You're not seeing that huge growth. But what's really going on is that you're building this massive root system underground. You're building the habits, the systems, the foundation. And then once that foundation is solid, the growth suddenly seems to shoot up out of nowhere. This right here is the secret. It's not about finding the next big thing. It's about the unsexy, repetitive, boring stuff. Checking your budget, automating your savings, reviewing your investments, saying no to that impulse buy. Discipline is just the art of showing up and doing the boring work, especially on the days you really don't feel like it. And you know what? That's okay. In fact, boring is your superpower. While everyone else is out there chasing exciting, high-risk shortcuts and probably losing, your boring, consistent approach is just quietly compounding in the background, building real, lasting wealth. Boring is dependable. Boring is powerful. Ultimately, it all comes back to this. Your financial situation is almost always a mirror reflecting your mindset and your habits. If you can master the inner game, the discipline, the patience, the long-term thinking, then the outer results, the money and the success, they almost have to follow. So I'll just leave you with this one question. Forget about some grand 5-year plan for just a second. What is the one small, simple, maybe even boring step you can take today to start strengthening that discipline engine? Because that